Okay, this tutorial is designed to make text 6 clear, as well as help you understand how to source and contextualize and corroborate different text. By far, this is the most difficult text in the text set. So let's get started with sourcing and contextualization. If you recall, at this point you better recall, sourcing is about who wrote the text, what's the author's background, and then looking at it and answering the question, what does all this mean? So I'm going to read the first part here out loud, and then I'll go back and talk about what it means in relation to those questions I just talked about. This excerpt comes from an article that appeared in the Magazine of Western History in the fall of 2004. The title of the article is "Give Me 80 Men Shattering the Myth of the Fetterman Massacre." This author is Shannon Smith Calteri, is a professor of history at Oglala College. She has written several books examining the conflict between Native American tribes and the United States government. Calteri teaches at the college that is run by the Sioux tribe that was involved in the Fetterman Massacre. Its mission is to provide educational opportunities that enhance Lokita life. The college is committed to continuous improvement and is planning on creating a university. So this gives us a little bit of background about the article and the professor and where she works. Okay, so with that background information, we should be able to source and contextualize. So clearly the text is written by Smith Calteri. She's a professor at a college that is run by a Native American tribe. And the students attending the college are Native Americans. So it's safe to say that her bias will be certainly favoring the Native American experience. And certainly she will be critical of how the United States acted in relation to the Native American experience. We also know by looking at it that this is a secondary source because it was written in 2004. So we could expect to see evidence being provided in the account. If there's not evidence, then we can say that she's not a very good historian. So I think we've sourced and contextualized well enough here, and let's move on. Let me say one more thing before we get going on to reading the text. The text comes from a magazine article entitled "Give Me 80 Men Shattering the Myth of the Fetterman Massacre." Given the author is a professor of history, we should expect the text contains evidence, and given the title of the article, "Shattering the Myth of the Fetterman Massacre," we should expect that the author believes that the Fetterman Massacre, as reported by historians, is not accurate. Okay, so she's going to be critical of the way historians have gone about reporting the Fetterman Massacre. The key word in that I'm picking up on is the word myth, M-Y-T-H. And a myth is a historical account that has been told without accurate facts or evidence. Okay, so that tells us a lot about what to expect in this text. Before we read this, let me cover some points here that students have been having with the text so far. Many students expect to read a document about the Fetterman Massacre. This text is not about the historical event, but how historians have gone about writing about the event. Okay, Note, this is not about the Fetterman massacre. It is about the way historians are reporting it. Second point here that seems to be a point of struggle, the author calls attention to the question, the widely accepted view of the Fetterman massacre. She believes that historians have ignored the primary sources that describe Fetterman as an excellent officer. Okay. The third problem, and this is probably common for beginning history students, they're not ready to deal with texts that present different historical accounts of the same event. That there could be multiple accounts having different characterizations of historical actors, and that's a part of this document. The fourth, again, this has to do with a beginning history student. You're just not aware that historians make their disputes about the way history is done through written text. And I think that's the approach I'm going to take in reading the entire text, is that Smith-Calteri is making public her critique on how historians have gone about reporting the past, in particular with the Fetterman massacre. So let's read this and make sense of it. It is difficult to find a historical treatment of the incident that does not support the arrogance leading to ambush storyline. The history of this characterization reads like a who's who of Western writers. Here, Fetterman is portrayed as an arrogant or ignorant of Indian warfare and contemptuous of the Sioux. For nearly a century, historians have used the always present saying, "Give me 80 men," quote, to paint the picture of Fetterman crossing over the ridge, where behind him, with rich irony, followed exactly 80 men. Okay, this here is simply telling us that historians for the last 100 years have advanced this idea of arrogance leading to ambush. Okay, that's all it's saying here. And she's really setting the stage for being critical of this account of the past. Okay, and this is clear in this next sentence where it says, "Such an image of Fetterman." Okay, that image is what was set up here of being arrogant, ignorant of Indian warfare, and not respecting the Sioux. Okay, she's saying that doesn't fit with the primary sources. So she's looked and read the primary sources, and what she's found is that his personality and performance as a soldier really doesn't match up. Letters and memoirs by Fetterman's fellow soldiers universally describe him as an excellent officer. Okay? His military record shows him to have been a man with outstanding leadership, both in battle and administration, and an officer who was thoroughly indoctrinated in the military code. Okay? Now, if we go back to previous sources, in particular the Carrington text, Carrington's claiming that Fetterman disobeyed his orders. What this document is saying is that Smith-Calteri looked at primary sources, and Fetterman was keenly, very aware of the military code of conduct, and she's making the argument that he knew that not to break the chain of command. Okay. The next paragraph. A recently discovered letter reveals Fetterman clearly believed Carrington was unqualified to command the post. "We are afflicted with an incompetent commanding officer, but shall be relieved of him in the reorganization," he wrote in November 1866. However, Fetterman also knew that the Army's post-war reorganization that would likely promote him to post commander was going into effect in 35 days. With so little time left to report to Carrington and a bright future ahead, it is unlikely that Fetterman would have displayed an unprofessional demeanor. Other than Carrington's accusation, there is no evidence indicating that Fetterman was anything but a professional officer and a perfect gentleman. Okay, this is the evidence that Smith-Gualtieri is drawing on to paint Fetterman in a different way. Okay. And then finally here, she makes a comment about history in particular. Tracing the evolution of the Fetterman myth reveals how middle-class men and women use their social position to create their preferred version of history. What this means is that Carrington's family has spent time and money making sure that their historical account, in which Carrington is not viewed as an incompetent soldier, but one that was competent, and it was Fetterman's fault for the massacre. Okay, and that people have agendas, this preferred version of history. Okay, and then down here at the end, we see that the author is using many sources to build her historical account, which is consistent with her background as being a historian. Okay, so that's this reading of this text in terms of sourcing, contextualization, and corroboration. If you have any questions while you're working on your questions, raise your hand. I'll come by and see you.